Hey there, welcome to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. All right, I want to come on here and share my thoughts on a recent release from the Criterion Collection on 4K Ultra HD. This title comes out in the last week of the July 2025 Barnes & Noble 50% off Criterion Collection sale. And I had a chance to pick it up and watch it. It is Spine 1270, and I want to come on here and share my initial impressions. So, sort of a lighter review of Carnal Knowledge, Mike Nichols' 1971 film starring Jack Nicholson, Art Garfunkel, Ann Margret in an Oscar-nominated performance, and Candice Bergen. This is a very frank portrayal of relationships, love, and sex, and it spans a couple of decades, 2 or 3 decades in the lives of these two college buddies played by Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel, and the women in their lives, how they talked about them and how they treated them. And it is a very frankly portrayed and presented film. And so I want to take a few minutes and talk about it, what I think about this film, what I think about how this looks on 4K Ultra HD, how it sounds, the supplements, and whether or not this is a title you should consider adding to your collection. If you happen to catch this during the sale, I hope it's helpful to you. Or if you catch it at any time, hopefully you'll have a better idea of at least what I think about this title, Carnal Knowledge. So let's get into it. All right, we're talking Carnal Knowledge, the 1971 film from director Mike Nichols. This is a very interesting film. I got a few slides. I'm going to make this a short and sweet review. So I'm going to move through it with a bit of expeditiousness. So let's jump right into it. Title slide. This is Carnal Knowledge, 1971 film, Criterion 4K review. You see the theatrical poster there with Jack Nicholson and Ann Margret. And then, of course, you see the 4 lead characters in the Criterion cover. This is a film directed by Mike Nichols, and it's a daring and fascinating look at relationships across decades. It follows Jonathan, played by Jack Nicholson, and Sandy, played by Art Garfunkel. They're both college buddies, and it shows them from college into middle age and explores how their ideals about sex and love evolve and sometimes unravel through partners like Bobby, played brilliantly by Ann Margret. So brilliantly, in fact, that she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. This film is striking for its frank, unfiltered conversations about intimacy, power dynamics, and disappointment. Watching it today, you get the sense that a film like this might not be greenlit now. That is definitely the impression that I got, in the age that we live in today, in the modern sensibilities, and having come with the recent events of the Me Too movement. I find it hard to imagine that a film like Carnal Knowledge would be made today, but you never know. But wow, this is an example of a film that is a product of its time. It's like a time capsule of a film. I'm not sure if it would be made today, but it is a frank portrayal of these characters and their treatment of women in this film. And it is also a commentary that even to this day, we still see these things going on. So, these are the types of things going on at this time in the 1970s, back in the 1940s when this story began in the story, and even to this day and throughout history. So that's the fascinating aspect of Carnal Knowledge, is just how frankly it presents these relationships and how people think, how people talk to one another about women in this case, and how they treat the women in their lives. So very interesting. But yeah, so I found the performances strong across the board, and Criterion's 4K transfer really lets the film's muted tones and detailed production design shine. Of course, this is a film by Mike Nichols, the director of Carnal Knowledge. And, Mike Nichols brings his sharp eye for human relationships to Carnal Knowledge, a film that still provokes and fascinates. He is the director of The Graduate and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. You see The Graduate, starring Dustin Hoffman and Anne Bancroft there. Of course, you see a picture of Mike Nichols on the set of The Graduate there with, Dustin Hoffman when he was, in the pool, in that famous pool scene. And then, of course, you see Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel in a very interesting scene during this film. He's known for bold, character-driven films, is Mr. Nichols. I talked about standout performances. Jack Nicholson at the top left there is Jonathan, very layered and cynical. Ann Margret, she was nominated for an Oscar in her role in this film. I found her performance and Mike Nichols' direction of her performance to be very, very fascinating. And I mean, how he would literally sit on a still of her, and just really just allowing the viewer to just soak in Ann Margret sitting there processing how she's going to proceed in this relationship with Jack Nicholson's character, and not being afraid to just let it sit there and let you, the viewer, think with her, empathize with her, try to figure out what's her next move. Why does she want to be with this guy who's mistreating her? Very, very good stuff. Of course, you have Art Garfunkel and Candice Bergen. They also provided some very nuanced support in this film as well. I really liked Art Garfunkel's Sandy character, how he was a good play off of Jack Nicholson's character. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was very, very good. So great performances all the way around. Themes and impact. This film, again, is a bold exploration of love, sex, and honesty. And these themes make Carnal Knowledge resonate decades later. It's a bold look at intimacy and gender roles. It follows friends across decades, I think from the 1940s to the 1970s. And it's very, very provocative new Hollywood landmark. So you see here some stills from different times in this movie with the dynamics of these men and the women in their lives. So let me talk a little bit about how this film looks on 4K Ultra HD. Criterion 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray Combo Edition, and it features an excellent 4K transfer with Dolby Vision. So this is the actual, of course, the case, the front and the back. I'm going to crack it open. You see on the inside that you have the Criterion 4K and the Blu-ray. The Criterion 4K has the film and the commentary on it, and the Blu-ray has the film, the commentary, and the supplements. One thing you'll want to note is that you have, check this out, see those staples there? This is a stapled book, folks. For those of you who follow this channel, y'all know I love a stapled book, and this is a great one. You have here the cast here. So you see the 4 leads here, and I love what it says here. He won't mind. How do you know? I won't tell him. A conversation early in the film between some of these characters here. Jack Nicholson and Candice Bergen. Very, very good stuff. But you see the cast, Jack Nicholson playing Jonathan, Candice Bergen playing Susan, Art Garfunkel playing Sandy, and Ann Margret playing Bobby. Some great pictures in here, but you have a couple of really nice features in here, including Men Talking by Maura Weigel, which deals with the areas of misogyny that is portrayed in this film very frankly, which is, I mean, this is a very frank film indeed. Some great pictures here, but then there's also an excellent feature here on location with Carnal Knowledge by Herb Lightman, providing insights on location when this film was shot in Vancouver. So definitely check that out. Some great features and commentary on that. But this is all in this nice stapled booklet that spans about 40 pages. And of course, you see Jack Nicholson's character there at the end of the film. So fantastic stuff. Now, as far as how this picture looks on 4K Ultra HD, there is about the master right here. So I'll read that. It says, Carnal Knowledge is presented in the aspect ratio of 2:35:1. This new 4K restoration was undertaken by Studio Canal and created from the 35mm separation masters, as the original camera negative could not be used because of significant damage and mold. So it's not the original camera negative, it's from 35mm separation masters, but this film looks fantastic on 4K, folks. I mean, I was very impressed with how clean the image looked, how detailed it looked. This has a nice Dolby Vision grade put to it. So This is a muted presentation overall, so it's not the most colorful film in the world. It's not the type of film that's going to necessarily look exactly like a film shot today. But there were a lot of instances where I was watching this film thinking to myself, you could actually believe that this film was shot in the past few years because it looks so good, so beautifully cleaned up, so beautifully restored that it looks clean, it looks crisp, beautiful detail to it, but you can tell that it is, an older film. It's from 1971, but the restoration work is absolutely fantastic. It looks beautiful on 4K with some nice depth and clarity in the image. There are certain scenes that really pop out. There was a scene where you had a couple of characters watching some tennis action. Jack Nicholson was playing tennis off screen. And so you see some characters, Art Garfunkel, who was on screen at first, but then went off screen and played tennis with Jack Nicholson. And then you have these ladies who are watching them, and you can see characters in the foreground and the background in between this and this park bench in between them. So you see all this beautiful detail in the characters, the depth, almost three-dimensionality of the image. It just looks great. And I was really impressed with how well this film looks. So even though it's not based off of the original camera negative because it was too damaged, the materials that they were able to work with these 35 millimeter separation masters, they were able to produce a very nice restoration that is beautifully rendered on this 4K disc. So no complaints there at all. As far as the supplements, there are some fantastic supplements on this disc, including an audio commentary that features the filmmaker and playwright Neil LaBute. So definitely check that out. You also have a new program with Mike Nichols' biographer Mark Harris and film critic Dana Stevens, which is very well done. And then you have a new interview with film editing historian Bobby Osteen talking about the editing process of this film and how this film was edited and put together. So some really nice insight from Bobby on that. And then you had this very interesting conversation from 2011 between Nichols and filmmaker Jason Reitman, and then a Q&A with screenwriter Jules Feiffer. You'll definitely want to check that out because the individual who did the Q&A with Jules Feiffer does a great job with almost a 5-minute introduction beforehand. I'm not sure if it was 5 minutes, but at least 3-minute introduction, really setting the stage for this upcoming discussion with Jules Feiffer, who wrote the screenplay for this film. And so, yeah, overall, a fantastic set of supplements. Not a fully loaded edition, but you do get that commentary. You do get some new features on here, a new program with Mike Nichols' biographer, Mark Harris, and film critic Dana Stevens. And that conversation between Nichols and the filmmaker, Jason Reitman, and the Q&A with Jules Feiffer, very, very good stuff. But I really enjoyed that editing feature with film editing historian Bobby Osteen. So you get some nice insight in the making of this film with those special features, and I really enjoyed that. You also have this staple booklet that has that nice essay as well as the on-set insights. And so I think this makes for a very nice package overall. From an audio standpoint, it's an uncompressed monaural soundtrack, and I could hear the dialogue quite well. There's not a whole lot in the way of sound effects going on in this film. So it's a very dialogue heavy type of a film. So, you're able to hear everything that Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel and the characters are saying in this movie. So no issues with the audio, and the video looks phenomenal. So great presentation. I think the supplements are strong. And this is a title I can definitely recommend, especially if you're a fan of Jack Nicholson or these other actors, Candice Bergen, Ann Margret. Great stuff all the way around. But it is a very frank portrayal of men and women and relationships and how some people think and treat one another. And there are some aspects of it that will have a bit of a cringe factor to it, maybe offensive to some, but it is very frank and real in how sometimes people can be pretty nasty to one another. And this film portrays that pretty frankly. So yeah, this is definitely recommended from me. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about this film, Carnal Knowledge? Have you seen it? If so, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. This is a very strong release from the Criterion collection, and one that you definitely want to pick up in the 50% off sale if you're thinking about picking up this title. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Peace.